Welcome back. Handgun Safety 101. Because we're Handgun Safety 101, we're going to continuously drive home these 4 cardinal gun rules. All guns are loaded, and we always pretend that they are. I'm pointing to something in front of me. Y'all can't see it. I do this all the time. I just point to those 4 things, but trust me, they're there. So all guns are always loaded, and we always pretend they are. No matter what you're doing with a handgun, consider it fully loaded and ready to go bang. Rule number 2, do not point the muzzle at anything you do not want to destroy. New people, this is the muzzle. This is the pointy end of the gun where the bullet comes out. When you have a gun in your hand, you're in control of the muzzle, not me. Although when you're around people that have a gun in their hand, you want to be very muzzle conscious and tell them, don't point that thing at me. Then you're going to keep your finger off the trigger, rule number 3, until you intend to fire the gun. As we mentioned before, this is the condition of your trigger finger 98 to 99% of the time you have a gun in your hand. The moments in time that you briefly touch the trigger and fire a round are very, very small. You could fire 15 rounds in 5 to 7 seconds, then your finger's back on the frame of the gun. The biggest safety we all have is our trigger finger. So keep it on the side of the frame and outside the trigger guard and off the trigger until you intend to fire it. And cardinal rule number 4, know your target, what's beyond your target, what's to the right of your target, what's to the left, and what's in front of your target. You are responsible for the terminal resting place of every round you fire. So if your round misses your target, what is it going to hit? You want to ensure that a miss is landing somewhere safe, that other people or property does not get damaged. Okay, so on to lesson 4, handgun cleaning. A revolver is a valuable piece of precision equipment. It must be given proper care if it is to operate correctly and safely. Taking proper care of any handgun will also maintain its value and extend its life, especially if you're carrying it on a daily basis. When to clean a revolver? A revolver should be cleaned after being fired, after being exposed to dirt and or moisture, and periodically. I've got some guns in the safe that have sat there for years. Take them out like a revolver. Cylinder doesn't spin because all the lubricants evaporated and just get stiff. So check them on a regular basis. Don't expect them to be fully operational if they've sat in a safe or in a box for years and years and years. I'm going to skip down here just a quick second and explain to you that when you're cleaning a gun, you never, ever, ever want ammunition, live ammunition, in the same room. There are 3 things required to fill the formula of a gun accident. 3 ingredients. You need a finger, you need a gun, and you need live ammo. If you do not have one of those 3 things, it is impossible to have a gun accident. Today we have fingers and we have guns, but there's no live ammo in this space up here. Anytime I clean a gun up here, there's no live ammo. If I have this gun on my ankle and I'm cleaning a different gun, this gun has to come off because it has live ammo in it. And I'm in cleaning headspace. As you can see by my cool apron, I am in cleaning headspace. So no live ammo, period. Even if it does not match the caliber of the gun you are cleaning. No live ammo in the same room. You cannot shoot yourself while cleaning your gun if you do not have live ammo. How many times have you heard people say, I shot myself while I was cleaning my gun? You can't do it if you don't have live ammo. So we don't have any live ammo up here. So we're going to move along. All right, the items are going to be required. These can be bounced around, mixed and matched, but you're going to have some cloth patches. I cut these out of old t-shirts. I cut them to the largest caliber gun that I have. I have multiple handguns, so I have a cleaning kit that covers everything from shotguns all the way down to pellet rifles. So if you've only got 1 caliber gun, you could get a gun cleaner like I have over there that's for a 45 caliber or a 9mm. You don't have to have gun cleaning equipment for guns that you don't own. If you don't own a shotgun, you don't need a shotgun gun cleaner. Rifle, don't need one. But because this is multi-gun, there's 2 sets of rods in here. Each set of rods has 1 rod that has a collar on it that spins. When you're using only 1 collar, you're going to want to use, 1 rod, you're going to use the collar that spins. Okay, so we've got cleaning rods, brushes, attachments, and everything. I use Q-tips, lots and lots of Q-tips. We just had to refresh this whole thing because during my last class they all get used up. I use pipe cleaners, fat pipe cleaners, and I use pipe cleaners with little brass rods in them, or brass brushes, whatever you want to call it. You're going to need a small brush. This is a gun cleaning brush. They have a single strand end and they have a multi-strand end. You can buy them $1 a dozen everywhere you go. You maybe need a screwdriver or an Allen wrench, depending on what you're going to be doing to your gun. You're going to need bore cleaner, which I use Hops number 9, and I also use a foaming bore cleaner, which we'll talk about in a minute. We use gun oil. Some people use cleaners, protectants, lubricants, all in one. I'm not a big fan of that. I would just rather have a product that does a thing. Now, mind you, these... Where's my bore snake? Lost my bore snake. I have a bore snake. Cut! The bore snake didn't make it out. Found it. Okay, I'm back. So this is a bore snake. This is for quick, fast, just cleaning the barrel, basically. A bore snake they come in all different calibers. This particular one is for 9mm, 380, 357, and 38 special. And what you would do is you would take the little weighted end on it and drop it down into the barrel of the gun, be it from the front or the back, it doesn't really matter. And it has little brass brushes right here that scrub it a little bit. You just pull it through, and it cleans the barrel only. These can have chemicals placed on them, and they work just fine, but then you get all messy, and you got to wash them with your wife's delicate underwear, and you get in a lot of trouble because you can't want to do that. So don't do that. I've never put anything on my bore cleaner, my bore snakes, and they do the job they need to do. Now, mind you, both this particular cleaner and the oil have micro applicators on them. Micro applicators. We're not hitting these things with fire hoses with any of these substances, just minor amounts. So I'm not going to necessarily get through the whole cleaning process of this gun, but because of that, I'm going to put it together. And because this is a multi-gun gun cleaner, it has all sorts of buzzers, bells, attachments, and things that you got to put on it just to get started. And that's okay. I have multiple calibers of guns. So the first thing I would do is just get that ready. But before anything, I would take this stuff, shake it up, and give the barrel a shot of foaming bore cleaner in all 5 chambers on this particular gun. It has 5. And then I would just let it sit. And at that point, I would be breaking all of this out, putting this on. And the reason I put this on, y'all can't see this, but this apron is just covered with splatter from the brush. And if you've got good clothes on, this stuff might not want to come out of your clothes. So if you're going to have good clothes on, put an apron on. It may look silly, but get one that says something about chicken and you'll be all right. So this has been sitting for a little bit. Now I'm going to take this brass brush, and remember, we've got a rod on here that spins, and we want to let it spin. We want to push it through the bore and out the other side, pull it, and do that a couple of times. And the reason that you want it to spin is so that it can clean the grooves of traditional rifling. Polygonal rifling doesn't really matter because it doesn't have lines and grooves, but allow it to spin in and out. So don't hold it here and shove it in there because you'll stop the rotation of the brush. So we've cleaned the, oh, look at that, it came apart. So we've cleaned the barrel, and we've done the chambers on this gun, which we really didn't do, but trust me, it gets cleaned. Then you got to take what I call the rag threader thing and put your rag threader thing on it, which is basically like a needle starter. And then get an appropriately sized, all my stuff is gone. Get an appropriately sized, and I don't have any. They're all too big because I don't have my scissors. I got one. An appropriately sized rag. You don't want a rag too small, you don't want one too big, so make sure it's going to fit the caliber of the gun you have. And because these little guys here are plastic, don't force them, they will break. So you take a clean rag and you shove it down through there, and it's going to come out super filthy. If I had bore cleaner in it, this thing would be black. All the carbon and all the other crap that gets in your barrel is going to be, this rag's going to be toast. Throw it away immediately. Put a new rag on. Do it again until you get to a point where it's just kind of dirty, just a little bit. And you're going to do that with the chambers as well, so you're going to have to learn how to count to 5 in this case. If you have one with more than that, you have to count higher. But do the chambers as well. Now, once you've done that and you've got all the heavy crap scrubbed out of there, you take Hops number 9, you put a couple of drops on each side, just a couple of drops. You don't need a whole lot. And you're going to wet it again. We went from scrubbing bore cleaner, now we're going to wet this barrel with Hops number 9. We're going to do the same thing with the chambers. Then we're going to set this guy down for a little bit. With a revolver, there is a space between the front of the cylinder and the end of the barrel, which is not a barrel, it's a forcing gun, but that's for another day. So when you fire a revolver, splash, as it's called, comes out each side of the frame of the gun and trashes up the front of the cylinder. So this is when you get your little brush and you put a little bit of the hops number 9 on it and you start scrubbing it. And because we didn't finish cleaning it, the reason we didn't finish cleaning it is because now we're just pushing a whole bunch of crap down back into the cylinders, into the chambers, excuse me. So we're going to scrub that away, and then we're going to use this on the breech face, this part of the gun. We're going to get maybe 1 or 2 drops more of that. And now you got both sides of your brush that you can use it with. Clean, 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 clean. Break out your Q-tips, because this particular spot, because of the splash, usually gets really dirty as well, where the ejector rod buries and nestles into the gun right there. And just make sure it's all clean. Again, with the Q-tips, if it gets dirty, flip it over, wipe it. If it gets dirty, throw it away. Q-tips are cheap, really inexpensive things. So just keep doing them. If they get dirty, get rid of them. If they get dirty, get rid of them. And you can also put some hops on this if you need to help break down any of the nitroglycerins and whatnot that are in gunpowder. So you've got all that done, and it's all nice and relatively clean. And you take your, well, I don't have my rag with me either. Typically, I have a trash can behind me and a dirty rag that I use. And you just wipe the gun down. Just wipe it down with the rag, particularly a dirty rag that I keep to thousands of guns have been cleaned with. It's full of oil. And you just wipe everything down and get it relatively ready to go. Now you got to finish cleaning it. Now that this is all the extra gook has been wiped out of here. Now you're going to put a new fresh rag on there. You're going to push it down through the muzzle. You're going to push it down, and you're going to replace it and repeat until it comes out clean. And then you have a clean barrel. You're going to do the same thing with the chambers as well. Those are typically a whole lot cleaner than the barrel. So you've got a rag that went in and out and it came out clean. Now you can take that same rag and take your oil and put a few drops of oil on each side, few drops, excuse me, and then you shove it down through the bore again. And you get it nice and oiled up in there in the chambers as well. And then you can check the manual that came with your book, but basically, if it's a metal-to-metal friction part, oil it. I mean, there's not that many places on a revolver or a handgun or semi-automatic for that matter that need oil. But do check the manual you got with it, and if you didn't get a book with your gun, you can certainly download one online. But they do need oil, but they don't need to go take a bath in oil. You don't want that. You don't want all that oil sitting on your primers and all your ammo, it'll ruin it. So make sure everything is spinning nicely. If it's, again, metal to metal, give it some oil. Now you're going to just give this thing a check. This has no hammer. We'll get one out in just a second, but that does have a hammer for another purpose. You're going to make sure that all the tight bits are tight and all the loose bits are loose. Now, if you've got a tight bit that's loose and you have to use a tool on it, please make sure that the tool fits really, really close to perfectly, because you don't want to tear the screws up or the Allen heads on your gun. So just make sure that it fits. So if it's loose, tighten it. Sometimes in the past I've had to take screws completely out of the gun, put just a touch of blue Loctite on them, put them back in so that they stay snug, so I don't have to tighten them every time. If you do not tighten these parts, what will end up happening is your gun will fall apart on the range. Guilty. I've had to get a magnet out to find tiny little parts and put my guns back together because I just wasn't paying close enough attention to the tight bits being tight, and they got loose and they will fall out of your gun. So just make sure all your tight bits are tight and your loose bits are loose. Now, when you're checking it, if you have a wrong gun, if you have a pistol, wrong gun still, if you have a revolver that has a firing pin on the hammer, we talked about this earlier in the revolver portion, but if I decock this improperly, watch what the hammer does when I let go of the trigger. It moved backwards. The safety came up as the hammer was moving forward and intercepted the hammer. Now, if you're cleaning your gun and you find out that there's forward movement to a revolver that has a firing pin on the hammer, that's a bad thing. That's not a good thing. This hammer should not budge at all when you push on it. So if I was to take a hammer or take this gun and turn around and bash it on this table and it had a live round in it, it would not fire. The safety mechanism inside would be working. But if I can move this even a little bit, there's something going on with the safety, and you need to have that checked out by a gunsmith. So that's enough. And you do that while you're cleaning your gun. And some of the other side benefits of cleaning a gun, besides keeping its value and keeping it working, is the whole time you've been doing this, you've been manipulating a revolver. You've been teaching your hands and your brain how they work, when they work, what they do when they work, what they do when they don't work. and you're learning and learning and learning. This, I've always considered cleaning a handgun dry fire practice. If you can dry fire practice while you're cleaning, you can, practice getting the rounds out of it. You can do all sorts of different things. And once it's clean, you're going to function test it and pull the trigger, which is dry fire practice. Some people might be going nuts right now because I'm pulling the trigger of the gun, but that's perfectly okay because there's no live ammo up here and I'm in cleaning mode. Now, the last thing I do is look down the muzzle of a gun. I always have my flashlight on me, and there's no live ammo in this room. This gun's completely unloaded. The cylinder is open. I'm going to take a flashlight and I'm going to shine it on a nice white rag, and I'm going to take a peek down the muzzle, and it is perfectly clean. And I'm also looking for any potential pitting that is happening. Stainless steel lined barrels typically don't pit, but I mean, that gun doesn't have a stainless steel barrel, that one doesn't, that one doesn't. Not all guns are going to have stainless steel barrels. They're going to have carbon steel barrels, and if they are exposed to moisture on a regular basis, they could start to pit. Pitting in a barrel is not the end of the world, but as you're cleaning your gun, if you see more and more and more pitting, you might want to have it tended to, because pitting is not good. But with stainless steel barrels, it's just typically not going to happen. So that's a nice clean revolver. Again, you've got it all safety checked and everything is good. Put the gun back. Now you can get downstairs. You can reload it if you keep it loaded. And the revolver is nice and clean. I need to reiterate real quick before we get out of here. Despite the fact that it's important to clean your gun, it's even more important to make sure that there's no live ammo anywhere in the same room when you're cleaning a gun, revolver or pistol. Make sure it doesn't happen, because the three things required: you need a handgun, live ammo, and a finger. Those three ingredients, when combined together, can have a gun accident. If you're missing one of those, you cannot have a gun accident. It's impossible. If I don't have a handgun up here, I could play with live ammo all day long with my fingers and nothing's going to happen. Again, today we've got guns and guns and guns and guns and guns, fingers and fingers, but no live ammo. Extremely important. Extremely important. All right, that I believe is pretty much how you clean a revolver. You're going to want to get your revolver, clean it your own way, but basically that's pretty much it. There's not a whole lot to them. There's not a whole lot of moving parts, and I will see you later. So here we are back again. We're not going to go through the safety rules because we're still in the cleaning mode here, but now we're going to clean a semi-automatic pistol. There are multiple platforms out there. 1911s come apart one way. Kel-Tecs come apart another way. Bersas come apart another way. Sig Sauers, Springfields, they all come apart slightly differently depending on the gun, the manufacturer. 1911s are definitely different than striker fires, but today we're gonna focus on a Sig Sauer, a Glock 19. All right, so this gun is obviously safety checked. There's nothing in it. The magazine's not even in the gun. It's all empty. No live ammo up here, as we talked about just a moment ago. So we're going to clean this gun. The first thing we're going to do is field strip it. I might even just field strip a couple. We'll see what happens. This is how I take a Glock apart. Not everybody does it like this, but I reach out from underneath and I just squeeze my hand. 2 takedown levers, pull the trigger, comes apart. Easy peasy. Shake it, pull the barrel out. Now you've got it field stripped. You have a frame, a barrel, a mainspring and guide, and a slide. That's it. So I'm going to take my foaming bore cleaner before I go any further. I'm going to fill it all up, make sure it comes out the end. And by the way, earlier I didn't talk about this, but I do have a chemical proof mat to keep my wife happy. And the desk all nice and not melty because some of this chemical is tough. So I've got the slide, I've got the barrel, the slide and the frame. Mainsprings typically don't get too dirty. I'm going to go over here and grab a rag real quick. I should have done that earlier while we were. So you can just run your rag through the spring, unless this thing fell in water. Now, if your guns fall in water, yes, take the gun apart as much as you possibly can. Get it as dry as possible, because rust and politicians are the two worst enemies of guns. So typically they don't need to be cleaned. It's a plastic guide rod on a steel spring, so oil is not necessarily required, but I always give it just a little touch anyways. So now you're going to clean the frame of the gun. Q-tips are always handy. You're going to put a little bit of bore clean, a little bit of Hops number 9 on it, and you're just going to get down right near the firing mechanism and get it all scrubbed out. And if there's any yuckies in there, this gun was cleaned recently. I don't know if you can see that or not. Not cleaned recently, it was fired recently. So that's typically what you're going to start seeing coming off on the Q-tip. I haven't cleaned it yet, obviously, but That's actually not horrible. It was probably shot 50 times. Some people will tell you that Glocks and semi-automatics should be fired thousands of times before they have to be cleaned. I'm not a believer in that. I believe that you should give them a decent cleaning pretty much every time you shoot them. Pretty much. If you can. I mean, time doesn't always allow for such things. So get down into these little nooks and crannies and get it all cleaned out. I will, on occasion, take this and put it like this and shove it through the magazine well. You got to be real careful because there's metal bits hanging out of this everywhere. But if you just, if you had dropped it in water or got in the dirt or something, just gently pull it back and forth through the magazine well to get any crud out of there. But again, be careful that you don't catch up on these metal bits because you'll either break them off or bend them. So like the revolver, we're gonna clean the barrel, and I'm gonna use the appropriate sized brush. Oddly enough, it's the same brush that I used for the other gun. I'm going to screw it on there, and I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to let it spin. Even though this has a polygonal barrel on it because it's a Glock, we're just going to let it spin anyways. So I don't want to get in the habit of pinching this off. Do that 2 or 3 times, then go back to your rag. And put a rag on there. We've got to find a new rag. That won't work. Cut the rag to the size you need. You need scissors. Put it on your rag tool and get it in and out of the barrel. Now again, they want to be snug, but you don't want them over tight because you will start breaking your gun cleaners if they're too tight. Now with these, the feed ramp right here needs to get nice and clean as well as around the outside edge of the chamber. So get some hops on here and get this feed ramp nice and shiny. If it's a polished feed ramp, if it's a painted feed ramp, you're going to have a heck of a time making it shiny. Get all this stuff around the face of the chamber all cleaned up and pretty. Again, I told you this gun had been fired 50 times. Now I'm getting some decent amount of stuff off. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and put some juice on this because it's bothering me that it's actually dirty. And I'm going to clean that pretty decently. Again, this gun could undoubtedly function round after round after round being somewhat dirty, but because I'm right here doing it, I'm just going to make it nice and pretty. So we're going to go ahead and we can finish cleaning this barrel, unlike the revolver where we stopped because we're going to do other stuff to it. We go ahead and we put a little bit of hops number 9 on here, we shove it in and out of there, and then we start changing the rag. Clean rag, clean rag, clean rag until it comes nice and clean. Then you can just take and put it on a light somewhere and look down through the barrel and see if it's nice and shiny, and this one is nice and shiny. And then the barrel is clean. And then you're pretty much done with this for the time being, if not forever for cleaning. So I'm going to go ahead and put it away. So now, that's got to come off there. So now we got to clean the slide. Slide, I use Q-tips and pipe cleaners and my brush. Typically the breech face on these things, this part right here where the round sits up against, the firing pin comes out of that spot, they get pretty dirty. So get aggressive with your brush and some hops number 9 on it, get it all cleaned up, and take your rag and wipe it down. And sometimes you can't see if something is clean or dirty until you wipe up all the crap off of it. Now you've got to look at it and make sure it's nice and shiny clean, and the breech face is clean. Now you got to clean the guide rails. Now I typically just use a fat pipe cleaner, bend it to my liking, and just run it down through the rail guides, or the rail grooves I should say, and just give it a couple runs through there. Put some hops number 9 on it if you need, and these suckers just work real good for doing this. And you can just rebend it, put it in there again if you want, just get it all nice and shiny clean. You can also take your brush and clean right here with your brush, get some hops number 9 on it, get it all cleaned up. Either use your pipe cleaner or a Q-tip, doesn't matter, you get it all nice and shiny clean. Again, you're going to have to oil this. Look up in your book where to oil it, or go online and find an electronic copy of your particular gun and model, make and model, and find out where to oil it. So it's all nice and clean. These have very few tight and loose bits on them, but just make sure that the outside of the gun is working properly, that the all the mechanisms are moving and doing what they're supposed to do. Then you oil it and you put it back together, and they do not take a whole lot of effort to put these things back together, although the barrels are obviously directionally specific. The springs are directionally specific as well. You want to make sure that the spring goes out of the hole at the bottom of the slide, because the spring actually stays put in the gun and the slide moves over the top of the guide rod. So this spring will be sticking out to about here when the slide is retracted to the rear. So then we're just going to put it back on. We're going to start at the front. After we oil it, of course, we're just going to put it back there. In this case, that's all we have to do for a Glock. Do that a couple of times, pull the trigger, make sure it's functioning. But what I talked about earlier, I don't know if you can see this on the video, but that is the guide rod sticking out the end of the slide, because now the spring is compressed in here. So that guy's all nice and clean. Now let's just say you have to clean a magazine. Magazines do come apart. They are spring loaded. Most of them have an indent on the bottom of it. You push it in with a pen, and you heard it click. Now remember, you've got spring pressure under your finger, so keep your finger on it so stuff doesn't go flying across your room. There's a subplate, a spring, and a traveler. There's only 5 parts to this one. So, and they're really hard to put back together wrong. Well, I put it back together right. I was trying to put it together wrong. See, it won't even go in there if it's wrong. So put the traveler back in. This does have a directional spring. I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but one end is skinnier than the other. In this particular case, the skinny end goes in first. Now, what I want to see is I want to see the angle of the magazine and the angle of the spring parallel with each other. And this is not what it is. If you pull that out, you put it in there, the angle of the spring and the angle of the end of the magazine are parallel. Put your subplate back on there. Use your body for a backup if you need. Slip the plate over and hear the click, and the magazine's back together. Taking these apart is few and far between. Really hard for them to get dirty unless they're dropped in muddy water or water. And then yes, definitely take it apart and make sure that it is in fact cleaned up. And I do believe that does it.